That seems to me that might be the
Halder
case.
taking the cut through. Here we go. He's going to close in on Silva. He took the cut through on the corkscrew last time too. Is he going to do that again here?
Let's see, he's awful close to Silva. Silva goes a little bit deep. He is going to cut right through, comes in front of him, but he's a little bit out of sorts. Car manages to get itself back together, and Nico Silva tries to cut back on him, gives him another little hello, sneaks inside, down into turn 10, and makes a pass. I can't remember the last time I saw a pass into that turn.
It's going to take a brave move to the four chicanes here. No side-by-side yet from Sanchez. Trangarade will have to hold on through a tight section. White flag coming to checkered flag now. Sanchez needs a big corner exit here. Hard through the corner towards the final chicane. A slide for Trangarade. He hits the turtles. Sanchez with the pull. Side by side, they all slide. Trangarade wins it. My goodness, what happened?
Is that going to be enough to counteract anything? That's a battle for the lead as well. Frisha trying around the outside now. He's going to try to hold it out, but again, Poli Partsinen able to hold it out. Oh my goodness.
And in the back, you can just see that is Juan Costa looking out of place, trying to get on the inside of Jukka Tolonen as it comes around side by side and just shoved out to the grass. Thomas Simon has struck. He struck again, the second time in two corners. On the inside, going around the Lesbo 1 into Lesbo 2. Jukka Tolonen and Thomas Simon going at it. As we jump back to the car number 66 in 9th position, that is going to be Steve Way looking to make the move on Alexander Wilfred on the outside, making it nice and tidy. Hold on to your hats, come on. Don't do it now, gentlemen. It's still a bit too early. Oh, on the inside, still holding, still holding, still holding. He's hugging the inside curve as much as he can. Steve Dwyer on the last corner of the last lap makes a move and overtakes to take 8th position.
I think he has as well, but here comes the move for Philip Hammer. It's going to be down to the inside, going through the first corner, done and dusted. Lucetta tries to fight him back a little bit, but it's a little bit too late. But no, Lucetta's going to have the inside coming up the rise to Druids.
And in through Druids goes the slides. Philip Hammer's not able to make it effective on the outside, but on the inside.
Both championships have been decided, but the season is not over. For one last time, our competitors will take to the track, and doing these sports cars justice, it's at Daytona. Not only that, tonight also presents another endurance challenge to close it out. Let's see who will end it on a high note as we get ready to watch round 24 of the Porsche Owners Club Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Zach Johnson, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Daytona's road course is by far one of the more popular rovals on iRacing. Let's head to our track guide to find out why. Welcome to the Daytona International Speedway. While many oval fans associate this Central Florida track with mainly NASCAR, the road course has gained just as much worldwide fame thanks to it hosting motorcycles and sports cars for decades. In fact, the flagship road race, the 24 Hours of Daytona, has become a major draw for drivers of all disciplines, many eager to have a go at endurance racing. The stats make this place sound relatively simple, with 12 corners on the regular road circuit and 14 on the NASCAR version, both spread amongst 3.5 miles. Indeed, a majority of the lap is spent on the oval portion, where you fly along the notoriously steep banking. But it's easy to underestimate the challenge presented to the drivers. The infield portion begins with the scary kinked entry of Turn 1. Not only is it the fastest part of the track, but the transition from the banking to the flat tends to upset the car as you slow it down. There's also the bus stop chicane on the backstretch. Added in the 80s, this is a tricky piece of circuit that punishes a poor exit severely, with it leading back into the latter half of the oval. As you'd expect, the long periods on throttle mean that drafting tends to play a factor in the racing. It also means passing isn't usually too great of an issue if you have the pace to catch someone. The more difficult thing is managing to gap your opponent so that they don't ride in your slipstream once you get by. With half a century of endurance racing collected among these walls, it's not unfair to say that road racers have just as much claim to call Daytona home. Fans who come to watch certainly won't be disappointed by the high speeds and fantastic thrills it invariably provides each year. Well, I don't know about you, DJ, but I'm really glad that they decided to end the season here, because as someone who's been to the Daytona 24 multiple times, it is something to behold to see this road course in action.
It certainly is, Joe. It is one of the original Rovals, and it is a very, very tricky track, despite the relatively simplistic look of the layout. Now, the main overtaking zones that you're really going to see around here in these cars, well, it's going to be turn 1 and then going down into the bus stop. Although at the bus stop, you've got to be very, very careful not to overcook it too much. It's very easy to pick up an off track as you exit, and even a slowdown penalty as you exit that corner. Also, the exit of the bus stop, absolutely crucial to get a good run all the way around NASCAR 3 and 4 to be able to get the pass done into turn 1. Outside of that, one of the most crucial corners, well, that's turn 6. The run back on NASCAR 1 and 2. You really want to make sure that you get proper momentum there, and it can be very, very tricky as it's a change in grade, obviously coming onto the banking, as well as a little bit of change in track compound. Very slippery, very easy to lose it.
That's, like you said, a surprisingly difficult track for how simple it looks on the surface, but we'll see if the drivers today can master it. Before we get to that, though, we want to remind you of our sponsors, which includes Porsche. There is no substitute. Find out more at Porsche.com. And Sunset Mortgage. Don't put your money in the bank, be the bank. Check them out today at sunsetcash.net. As well as Octavio Tequila. Celebrate now. For a great tasting tequila, go to octaviotequila.com and purchase today. As well as Century Financial Consultants, making the rest of your life the best of your life. You can check out their website at centuryretire.com. Now, as we said, the championship, at least for the top spot, is over here in the GT1s, but it is still on for a couple of drivers behind as we take a look at those GT1 points. And really the only ones that can switch around here are BJ Fulton and Bayan Salehi. And the good news is, or actually the bad news is that Bayan is not here from what we can see. Unless he shows up soon, he will not only lose that spot, but he won't be in the top 5 at all, because he will not have completed the 16 required races to earn prizes at the end of the season. So he'll fall behind in the points, even though he scored more. So right now it's looking good for BJ Fulton to stay put, if that sits how it does right now with who has shown up so far. However, we have the GT2 standings, which also has some drivers that could swap around.
Indeed, we do. Jerry Freckleton has been able to secure the top of those GT2 standings to the tune of about 43 points ahead of Mark Rondeau, but that second place is still up for grabs. Rondeau and Momeyer could swap around in that points battle, as well as Aaron Edwards and Chad Duncan. That one is another one that is still up for grabs, so some good battles there to keep an eye on in the course of tonight's race.
Now, as I mentioned, tonight's race is going to be slightly different. So let's take a look at the race details. It is a 90-minute event. And as you may have noticed, if you've been watching, our keen-eyed viewers have seen that it is not the Cayman and it is not the RSR that is out there. It is the new Porsche 911 GT3R. So this is the actual GT3 class machine that they are running in this finale. This is what they'll be racing next season. And with the top spots decided in the championship, they've decided to put everybody into a single class tonight running that car. So it should be a lot of fun with the 13 that we have out there today. Still open setup though. Hopefully everybody will be able to adapt to the changes that come with getting into this new car. Right now, we're in the midst of the last stages of qualifying here, and Travis Brown has the provisional pole over Corey Lotvala by almost 2 full tenths.
Yeah, and that's a pretty wide margin of time, and I think part of the reason for that is that Travis was just able to get a little bit of help from the draft early on in the session. As we've gone along here, it's a longer qualifying session for these guys, and we've seen them really space themselves out more and more. Nobody really running that close to each other, and I think that is what is leading to some slower times being set as of now.
You know, speaking of those pit stops, though, or at least of the draft, rather, I should say, I feel like that could affect the pit stops here. As I was making notes preparing for today, the one thing that came to mind is, well, the slipstream here is so powerful around the banking. Will we see some shenanigans with drivers trying to hang back behind somebody, even if they've got better pace, just to try and give themselves a strategic advantage?
They very well may, and we may see sort of the opposite of what we tend to see on a lot of road courses, where drivers will do whatever the opposite of whatever the driver in front of them decides to do, and instead we may see some sort of draft parties, some pit parties that come in, a bunch of drivers opting to come into the pits together so as not to lose that crucial draft.
And they can also fiddle with the fuel maps on these cars, so maybe somebody will try and do something sneaky with that as well. As we watch BJ Fulton cross the line, not able to go quicker that time through with his 44.6, still keeping him in 5th place. Checking to see if anybody is on a flyer right now. And I'm not seeing anybody close on that, although Corey Lotvala could maybe up his 144 flat. He's very, very tight on whether or not he's going to improve this time.
Yeah, he set a personal best in the 3rd sector. That is coming out of the bus stop, but looks like Corey's going to reset there, so that's going to completely redo his lap. He was not pleased with it. And yeah, Joe, speaking of the pits, as we were talking about earlier, not exactly something we're used to in this series, drivers coming in and out of pit lane. Now, I had a chance to talk with a couple of drivers before we came on air, and they reckon that it's going to be about 30 to 35 minutes worth of fuel. Probably about 33 minutes is the absolute maximum, maybe 34 if you're pushing. That equates about to 19 laps. So what that means is we'll probably see 2 pit stops over the course of the race, and depending on how good you are with your right foot and fuel saving as a whole, that last pit stop, you could save a couple of seconds by not needing nearly as much.
And that sort of presence of mind could be valuable by the end of the race here, as Michael Ost is coming around. Looks like he's about a 10th above his quickest time right now. So unless he's really good here through the bus stop chicane, which it looks like he is not, as he's down to 4 tenths, unfortunately, and not going to improve on this lap at this stage. So he'll get a couple more tries at it as he swings back around. It's very close on Jeffrey Shulam, though, in the 371, and he's sitting last on the field right now. Wonder if he could maybe have a shot at this.
He might. He's about 2.7 seconds back overall, but quick through Sector 2, quick through Sector 5 as well. Let's see if he's got anything here to be able to get this done for Jeffrey Shulam. He is obviously running a little bit by himself. Doesn't look like that's going to be an improvement, though.
It's very tight. It was hundredths of a second away from his best time. and not seeing anybody else on a good one right now. So this is where they start to reset and try to get a quicker lap in. Now, for those wondering how the championships, because we mentioned that a couple could switch around, how they're going to score that, well, the simple way of thinking of it is that everybody gets scored according to where they finish overall, but their points still go to their usual class that they run. So it is still important for them to try and overtake out on track, even if they aren't in a battle in the championship with the person that they're fighting with out there today. As we watch Mo Meyer come through, one of our drivers we're going to be keeping an eye on to see if he can get ahead of Rondeau, and that was an out lap for him. So let's ride around and see what a flyer looks like with the number 6.
Indeed, working his way through that tricky infield section. Those may look like some fast sweepers, but they are indeed. You've got to be a little bit careful if you get offline. Now breaking down into the International Horseshoe. Got to make sure that you maximize exit there and really, really be careful. Take a good amount of the curb. Now you line up, get all the way over to the right side of the track and come through the kink. And these GT3s, you can take that flat out. Judge the braking zone here for the Western Horseshoe based off of those cones. Bring it down and don't really run any wider than the middle of the track. The track crowns away from you and it gets off camber if you go too far to the left. Again, using the cones as your braking marker, come down here through turn 6. You can see a little bit of that change on the surface and bring it back up onto NASCAR 1 and 2. This is the first time as a driver you can really start to breathe. You relax a minute, you take a breather, you just chill out. The problem here is that you can technically carry around some more momentum around the high side, but it's very difficult to do so. You got to time it right. Now get ready for the bus stop. 3, 2, right, braking about right at that big illuminated sign. Bring it down. Careful. Cut the corner there. Don't run it too wide and bring it out on exit. Do not cut the corner there too much on exit or you will find yourself in a world of trouble. And again, bring it down to the low side of the banking. Let the car drift a little bit to maybe get a bit of a diamond off at the corner, but you don't want to run it there too much. Again, you take a breather here through NASCAR 3 and 4 and you get the car ready, and it looks like John's going to come down and practice a very tricky pit entry coming down from such high speeds.
Yeah, it's not quite as difficult as NASCAR with those big heavy cars with not much brakes to try and get it slowed down, but you still have to make sure and nail it if you want the best out of your pit stops, which they're going to have to do twice, as we mentioned. So it will be critical that they try and perfect that braking zone. You touched on another thing that I hadn't thought about yet, but I think will be equally important, is the cut course penalties with that bus stop. We saw that in the Precision Racing League with the MX-5s. That actually helped decide the race there last month. So drivers here have really got to be careful because they could lose the slipstream or lose the race.
Yeah, indeed. They have to be very, very careful of it. If you drift too far to the left there and get those left side tires out onto the grass, it will trigger a slowdown penalty that you will have to give back. Now, that is not given by race control. That is automatically applied by iRacing, and there's no way to avoid that penalty. So drivers have to be very careful, and it's a very fine line when you come through the bus stop, Joe. You want to carry as much speed in as possible, especially if you're looking at an overtake, but you don't really want to be on the brakes after that first left-right. You want to just be powering on through it. So you've got to find that perfect area that allows you to maximize speed on entrance and exit while not running too wide in the middle.
Clock has timed out, so qualifying is ending, but drivers on a hot lap are allowed to finish. BJ Fulton is out there giving it a go, and so is Michael Johnson. I think those are the only two that we've got out on track now at this point. Fulton trying to get onto the front 2 rows. Johnson trying to get onto the front row. And so far, it's going to be tight for the 277 who we watch on screen. He is right about dead even. He just cracked underneath by about 1/10 of a second under his best time. So we'll watch him closely to see if this will carry on. He's only got to make up about 0.17 of a second to catch Newton in 4th.
Yeah, and let's see how he handles the bus stop. Again, this is such a crucial corner, bringing that car all the way over to the safer barrier. Good run through there. Oh, that's just about perfect for BJ. That is exactly how you want to do it. I'm not seeing any personal best sector times for him, though, but we won't know how he handled the bus stop until he comes around on the backside of this lap, Joe.
It's still very tight. I'm seeing just a 10th up, unfortunately, which looks like he might not make it. It's going to be within hundredths of a second. Let's see what the clock shows as he crosses the line. 44.759. That is just about a 10th ahead of his best. And of course, looks like Johnson, who did improve last time, is not going to have this one count as he crossed just after the flag. I was wrong. And so this lap didn't count. But he did get himself into third with that last one of 144.383. All right, with that, after a year-long schedule here in the Porsche Owners Club Series, they have the finale here at Daytona, and our grid is set for this one. Let's go through that starting order. It is Travis Brown who starts on the pole with Corey Lotvala in P2. Then you've got Michael Johnson starting from third as Paul Newton will be in P4. BJ Fulton does not have Bayan Salehi here to challenge him, so he has solidified that fourth place. He'll start from fifth out on track. Michael Ost will start from P6. Then it is Jad Duncan in seventh with Mark Rondeau to his outside. Aaron Edwards will be ninth, and Freckleton will start from 10th.
In 11th, it's going to be Michael Robon, and in 12th, it'll be John Momeyer, losing out to Mark Rondeau in the early stages here for that battle for second place in GT2. And then bringing up the back of the field, it is Jeffrey Shulam.
I like this. This is a first, I think, for this season besides the other enduro they ran over at Auto Club. The time has changed, so they're going to start here just as the sun is setting. It's almost 7 o'clock virtual standard time here in Florida, so it's a relatively cool track because of that. And we will get nice glimpses of that beautiful pink and orange glowing Florida sun as it goes below the horizon. But they're going to start on the back stretch. They'll get a half a pace lap, and then we run for 90 minutes here in the last race of the season.
Indeed, and as that sun continues to go down, remember that will cool down the track a little bit, so drivers will have to be careful about that. Now, the one thing that I did talk to Michael Johnson about that he wasn't sure was how drivers were going to handle tire changes. If they were going to take tires, if they weren't, it's going to be a big unknown here tonight.
And the reason that we bring that up is, well, the rules in these GT3 cars are that they cannot change tires and take fuel at the same time. So it is essentially an automatic added time if you decide to take tires as well as your fuel. There's no trying to fuel at the same time and save yourself by only taking 2 tires or anything sort of tricky like that. You're going to cost yourself regardless. So we'll pay attention to see who tries to elect. From my knowledge in races past in this style of car in about 90-minute races, it's kind of marginal, DJ, from what I've seen, where some drivers have elected to take tires either the first or second, and some have dared to try to save the time and go to the end, but they get pretty worn by that point.
Yeah, they do indeed, and it's really just a matter of how well the driver can control the car himself. If there's confidence, and the biggest thing to worry about, though, with rear-engine, rear-wheel drive car, it's going to be those rears. If you spin them up early, you're going to need to come in.
Absolutely. And don't forget, you got those back-to-back hairpins between the International Horseshoe and Western Horseshoe, so that rear grip going to be so important as the race goes on. Try not to abuse them as you accelerate out of those slower corners. But it looks like the pace car getting ready to release Travis Brown pretty soon as they come off of the banking of NASCAR 4. What will the final race of the season hold for us? Will Travis Brown be able to add to his tally of wins so far? Porsche pace car getting ready to peel in. There it goes. Brown has control. Does he go early? No, he waits for the green flag, which waves now, and that allows Corey Lotvala to stay tight with him as they start to accelerate down into the first corner. This is a place of chaos sometimes at the start of races, and Lotvala is sitting it in deep, but he starts to lose out. There goes Michael Johnson, his experience shining through.
That's a heads-up play from Michael W. Johnson to be able to force his way on and up there. BJ Fulton also up a position, now looking to challenge Corey Lotvala down to the inside side of the International Horseshoe. It's going to be side by side on the exit. Lottula may be able to have a little bit more momentum, and when they get to the kink, it'll favor that red car once again.
There he's under threat. Oh, almost contact between himself and Fulton, but he covers him off down on the inside into the Western Horseshoe up ahead of them. Johnson is already putting the pressure on to Brown, who is going for his 9th victory if he can win this one from the pole today. Johnson will certainly want to deny him. He has yet to take a solo win. His only victory this season came in the team race at Auto Club.
And that is a bit of a sore spot there for Michael. He desperately wants to get this win, and now as he tucks up behind about 0.6 of a second behind Travis Brown, that gap starting to come down a little bit courtesy of the draft. He'll be on for a good hunt here.
Wonder if Michael has been able to shake the embarrassment from last week too. Remember, he was leading towards the end of the race at Mosport and threw it away with a mistake into Moss Corner. He's positioned well as they come through the bus stop. I'm not seeing anybody with any wild offs here, so it looks like everybody's trying to play the long game. And look at this. Got a little bit of a battle between Newton Fulton and Ost. And how did Fulton wind up all the way back here?
Sounds like he had a little bit off at the bus stop, Joe. The first victim. There goes Ost sweeping around the outside.
I spoke too soon. Yeah, you're right. It looks like he did have a bit of a cut course there. So he falls down to 6th position as they come back to turn 1 for the first time at speed. And Fulton with another mistake. He gives up 2 more spots as Rondeau and Duncan go by.
Indeed, but up front, we've got to keep an eye here because Corey Lottula also putting some massive pressure on Michael W. Johnson. Lottula had a great run out of NASCAR 3 and 4. Look at him all in the back of him through the kink, trying to find an area pie, that number 9. You don't really want to go to the outside here, Corey, and he indeed knows that. Both drivers sticking to the on-camera part of that corner.
Lottula locked into 2nd in the championship, but would like to end this with good momentum heading into next season. He's only got 3 wins on this season, and the last one came at round 14 at Road Atlanta. That's quite some time ago at this point, so he probably needs to get back on the horse.
Yeah, he'll want to get going a little bit more if he can. He tucks up behind in the draft here. Big help. I anticipate the efficacy of the draft being around a second here is when you'll start to feel the effects of it, and Corey Lottula definitely feeling it here.
But unfortunately for the pair of them, they have fallen off the back of Brown by some margin here, and we're only on lap 2. It's about 1.5 seconds. So I don't know how much they're going to want to fight. They might want to try and hook up here, see if they can use a little bit of that NASCAR-style bump drafting to catch up to the 300.
Yeah, exactly. They definitely want to do that if they can. But right now, Corey Lottula, the only thing he cares about is trying to get around Michael W. Johnson. He's going to try to push to the inside. Was that a little bit of a bump draft there from Corey? I think indeed it was.
It definitely was. A little bit rough as well, but they got away with it. And that definitely made them a bit faster. 45.7 for Johnson that time through. But unfortunately for them, Brown hit a 44.8 that lap. So even without any help behind him, Travis has been fast. And they're coming upon lap traffic already. Momeyer must have had a problem here at the start. Looks like he lost connection, I'm seeing.
Yeah, I think that was, he was having some connection issues beforehand as well, so he's going to have to kind of start from the back and work his way forward.
Well, that's bad news for both Johnson and Lottula because that's another roadblock for them that could potentially slow them up. And connection problems as well continuing for Momeyer as he blinks in front of them. We watch them exit out of turn 6 onto the oval portion, and this is where it's nice and easy to overtake a lapped car. In fact, it's going to help them pretty significantly because this is going to be a huge tow for the pair.
Yeah, it is, and the person who will be most thankful for that is Michael W. Johnson, who's going to be able to use that tow to try to keep himself ahead of Corey Lottula. Lottula, in turn, though, closing down the gap under 0.3 of a second now as they begin to start thinking about braking for the bus stop. There it is. You can see the cars pitching forward.
Oh, but I think he gets held up a little bit. He was not able to get past that number 6 car, and he had to brake a little bit early. Now we'll get another little breather of the slipstream around NASCAR 3 and 4. Momeyer's going to dip to the high side and let each of them through.
Yeah, and that's a good move there for John. Oh, that is Jeffrey Shulam around. That is some heavy damage on the exit of the bus stop. No, that's Jerry Freckleton.
Oh, no. Our current champion here in the GT2 class with a big hit. They do have a spare car. I suspect he's going to have to take it, but that's going to add to his pit stop tally, and he is going to have to come in 3 times if he does decide to take this spare car now.
Let's go back and check out the replay here, Joe. Obviously, 2 cars almost identically liveried, so it's going to be a little hard to discern. Oh, just catches a little bit of the grass there. The car gets sideways and head on into that safer barrier. Oh, that one hurt.
It did, and he is indeed coming into pit lane now to try and get that spare car underneath him. Good news is he's got much of the race to try and recover now. There's another glance at it, and that's a very common mistake. He can't be too embarrassed, but it still hurts.
Yeah, it still definitely hurts, and it's not something you want to have to experience there. So he'll be back in, get that spare car.
Seeing that Travis Brown saying something about Momar being forced to start from pit lane. I think that was related to his disconnect there, as Lotvilla gets awful close this time down to the braking of the bus stop, decides not to try and attack. I do think that the big picture is on the mind of the 22 here, because we haven't really seen him dicing with Michael Johnson yet. I suspect that he is trying to do his best to play nice for now so that they don't lose too much time. Ooh.
No, and that is Paul Newton having a big off through the grass. I looked up and just saw him getting squirrely. John Momeyer as well was hard into the wall there. Not sure if those 2 incidents are related or not, Joe, but Newton down on the apron.
It was unfortunately related. They made contact twice, and it was Newton coming together with Momeyer, who hadn't quite collected the cars. We get a little bit of side-by-side down into the first corner. This is Robon trying to protect against Rondeau, and does so successfully.
Whoa! But there goes Robon around.
Well, it was good until it wasn't, and unfortunately, he found the inside wall there on the pit exit, and that caused maybe a little bit of damage, but probably more of a bruised ego as he falls to 10th. I think we have a replay on that incident with Momeyer. Let's see if we can spool that up.
All right, so Momeyer cut it there, came back onto the track, tries to avoid Newton. Oh, that's a great catch from Paul Newton to be able to hold on to that thing coming through the grass. Here's a better angle of it. Yeah, Momeyer gets a little bit squirrely.
Oh, yeah, he didn't expect him to come back across the track like that.
No, he didn't, but Paul able to really control that car well and get it back going, and obviously he is down the order now, but he's all the way down in 11th, but at the same time, you've got to respect that ability to control the car. There is that Robon spin in the 929, just that lazy spin, Joe. The rear tire is just slowly breaking grip. You and I have both been there. It is one of the most frustrating things to have happen as a driver.
I always hate when that happens. You can feel it coming. You're shouting inside the car, and you just want it to hold on, but there's no way. It is gone at that point. I'm starting to notice that Johnson is reeling in Brown now. It was up to 2.1 seconds. It's down to 1.6. Last lap, a 45.3 for Michael Johnson. 45.8. That's way off the pace for Brown. I wonder if he had a cut course.
He may have, but ooh, that was Corey Lockwood. Maybe try to take a look there through the sweepers coming out of the corner, coming out of turn 1. But yeah, there you can see Johnson able to bring it down to the tune of about 0.5 of a second. Does look like, with the exception of those opening laps, Johnson is starting to get faster here. He may just have that car set up to handle a little bit better on a medium to low fuel load.
Going back to check Travis Brown's lap, and he did make a mistake into turn 1, so that could have cost him a little bit of time. 0.6, though, that seems pretty significant, and I'm not seeing anything else really major, so it must have been that bobble, and he's already made up for it. It's back up to 2.3 seconds now as we ride on board with Lotvilla chasing in 3rd place. So what was a slight moment of potential intrigue has suddenly dissipated on us, and despite catching up in the slipstream, Lotvilla still is not challenging.
Yeah, the only time we've really seen him try to make a move was down past turn 1 on that last lap. I get the sense here that Corey's okay, just kind of holding back, waiting to see what's going to happen to him. Doesn't want to press too hard until he sees a surefire opportunity. He knows this is a long race, still an hour and 20 minutes to go. He doesn't want to push.
And did Freckleton have another problem just now? He's in the pits again. Yeah, oh my goodness, he wrecked at the same corner again. At the bus stop, Freckleton, in almost the exact same spot, smashed it into the wall and has had to take another pit stop. He hasn't taken his second spare car. He's sitting and taking repairs, but man, it's been a bad finish to the season after clinching the championship.
Yeah, and here we see it come around. The car looking a little bit squirrely, catches the grass, almost identical of what happened to him last time.
So I think he's going to find himself slipping to last place as Momeyer's getting back around to finally lap him. As we were watching that replay, it looks like Lotfulham found his way past. I'm going to guess this was down into turn 1. Well, no, not quite. Looks like it was a simple slipstream out of the bus stop. Was easily past him by the time they reached turn 1.
Yeah, and interestingly, with the advantage of that pole, Corey Lotfulham went purple in the first sector. Ooh, Michael W. Johnson looking at maybe a fight back here. He's going to back off a little bit. Doesn't want to push too hard, but I don't think that fight is done for Michael Johnson.
I think Michael Johnson knows exactly how the races need to go here. We mentioned before, real-world experience for him racing in IMSA at Daytona, so he kind of understands the game. And I think it's going to be very similar to what we saw from Lotvilla. I think he's just going to kind of sit patiently unless kind of a slam dunk move comes his way and just kind of ride behind, saving fuel.
Yeah, I think it is. It looks like he's lost a little bit of pace there. He was certainly just a hair slower through the final couple of sectors. But that said, for Michael, he could try to gain this back up here through some of the twistier bits where he's got the experience of how this track is going to evolve.
It's very smooth down into turn 1. It was much tighter to the apex through there. In fact, I've noticed he has been able to hug that inside line a lot better than some of the other drivers. Again, I wonder if he kind of has a better feel for how to get the car woed up. I cannot fathom how scary it must be in the real world trying to break into that corner, because I know it kind of gives me the heebie-jeebies just here in the sim.
Oh, it's absolutely terrifying. You start to press on that brake pedal and you swear that there is absolutely no way on God's green earth that you're going to be able to slow down in time. And each lap, by some miracle, it seems like you finally get it down to speed. You can breathe easier, only to do it again in a little less than 3 miles.
Yeah, it's such a diabolical combination, that one, because coming in on the fastest part of the track into one of the slower corners, not the slowest, but still you got to get hard on the brakes. And you come off of banking, too. Not a lot of people talk about that. There's a transition in there which can upset the car as you've got a curved braking zone. There's just so many factors. I feel like it's a bit of an underrated turn in terms of road racing.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's incredibly difficult, incredibly perilous, but when you get it right, there's a great feeling about it. And one of the things that does make it so great, Joe, is that it's so wide. You can really spend a lot of time experimenting there, trying to find out what the best line is for you, maybe how the car's feeling, where you're going to lose that grip. If you're running a little bit more of a stiffer suspension setup, you may take an opposite line there going in, as we get a great overhead shot showing the difference here between everything. Travis Brown, though, I think feeling some of the pressure from Corey Lotfulham behind him and starting to put in the fastest lap of the race.
Yeah, 44.922. And that's not the first lap under a minute 44. In fact, Travis ran a 1:44.8 at one point. And that one did not count because he must have had an off track on that one. So Lotfulham still leading ahead of Michael Johnson through the Western Horseshoe. Drivers have spread out somewhat here throughout the field. This is one of our closest battles for this second place. The only other one that we've got going on is between Rondeau and Edwards for P7.
Yeah, indeed. And that one has just kind of ebbed and flowed a little bit as it goes along. Aaron Edwards trying to hold on behind Mark Rondeau the best that he can. It holds at about 7/10 right now. There you can see them as they make their way through turn 6 and get back onto the banking.
Yep, that is Edwards that you see there in the blue and white with Rondeau sporting the purple and red just ahead of him. This, like you said, has been tantalizingly close, but not seeing any battles between them yet. We'll see if Edwards can close that enough that he can start to attack here. Just past 7 p.m. virtual standard time now. And oh man, look at the reflection off of Lake Lloyd. Some of the updates that have been implemented in recent builds as we go side by side down into the first corner, and Johnson has the inside and a nose ahead. As long as he makes the apex, that's job done.
It is indeed job done, and a very similar move is what we saw Corey Lottfula do on him, just putting down the power out of NASCAR 3 and 4 and getting a simple pass done. And along the way, he picked up the fastest lap of the race with a purple sector 5.
Whew, yeah, 44.894 from Michael Johnson, and the gap comes down to 1.8. It was a 45-1 for Travis Brown last time. A little bit defensive there into the Western Horseshoe, so Johnson is not feeling totally safe about keeping this position. Doesn't want Lottfula to try and challenge him, especially since it seems like he's got a little pace here. Almost wonder, maybe they should start leapfrogging like that, just swapping that position back and forth here on the oval.
That would be my way of thinking about it, Joe, that may be the best way to get by. Obviously, the other way of sort of gaining some speed in terms of NASCAR terms is getting that side draft going, but with the bus stop in turn 1, not exactly the best way to do it. Let's see what Corey decides to do here. I doubt he's going to throw a move down into the bus stop, and indeed, he's going to back himself up a little bit. Interesting to note, Michael W. Johnson set a personal best in Sector 3 on this current lap, so he's clearly got some pace that he's pulling out. Johnson leaving the door open. It's leapfrog time.
It is indeed. They are working together. I think they both kind of realize that last lap was faster, so might as well just use this extra speed that they can give one another, and he's bump drafting him up to the tri-oval. Let's see what this lap is like for Lottfula. A 45.5. Actually not terribly fast, if I'm honest. Johnson with a 45.6. But they still gained by a big margin of 46.4. What happened to Brown on that lap?
I'm looking through the sector times right now to see if there's a discernible difference in where he may have lost time. I think he had a little bit of a bobble maybe again through turn 1. I'm seeing that first sector about 0.2 of a second off, and other than that, it's just minimal gains over the course of the lap. So I think maybe a little bit of a lockup going into turn 1, and then just the advantage of the bump draft.
Yeah, I went and looked and see he went kind of wide on the exit of turn 1. That, again, is just such a huge margin, a lot of time lost there. And the good news, though, is that Lottfula is close enough. He should start feeling a little bit of the effects of that draft. It's down to 1.4. I'm going to check the speeds, the top speeds here once they get to the bus stop.
Yeah, as am I, keeping an eye on that to see if it's going to change at all. Corey Lottfula pulling in a little bit. It's marginal.
Yeah, they both hit about 171. So it didn't look like he was all that faster, Corey Lottfula. This is a bit of a longer run, though, out of the bus stop down to turn 1, and it's down to 1.3. So let's watch it one more time, see if he gets any sort of gain out of this. Definitely going to get a gain here from Michael Johnson, who's going to be able to pick up some pace behind them. Coming up to the braking for turn 1 now. Up to 174 for Brown, 175 before he hits the brakes. And then it was 175 for Lottfula. So no, he's not quite there, but he's tantalizingly close, and he was faster yet again. It's down to 1.2 seconds.
Yes, indeed it is. So that gap continues to come down here a little bit. Travis Brown knows it. Ooh, that looked like a little bit of a minor bobble for Travis coming out of the International Horseshoe. Nothing to really worry about necessarily, but certainly not what he wants to see.
Not at all. As they come into the Western Horseshoe, let's see if this one can be a little tidier and definitely looks like it for both of them, but they've lost some time. It's back up to 1.4 seconds once again. So he's going to have to cut it down. Probably, it looks like maybe within a second to really start to feel it. If he does hit that, then he should be able to reel him in as long as he doesn't make a mistake of his own. They come through NASCAR 1 and 2 once again onto the super stretch. And last time it was about 171 for Brown. He'll get there yet again, about 170, 171 for Latvala. Just not quite to where he needs to be.
Well, the other thing, and we haven't really talked about this, Joe, is that Corey may have a little bit more of a trimmed down car. He may have a little bit more downforce into the car, and Travis may have that thing a little bit more trimmed out. Corey may have thought that he was going to be starting in the field a little bit more and needed to be able to fight his way through in some of those infield sections, whereas Travis felt confident in his abilities and just trimmed that thing out and planned to run in front.
Well, speaking of having to work your way through the field, can we give a little bit of a nod to Jeffrey Shulam? He started 13th, and that was with a qualifying time, so that was legitimate. He's up to 9th. Very nice gains here. Unfortunately for him, he's got Robon on his recovery trying to get back in this and has caught up to within 0.7 of a second.
Yeah, he's starting to push his way back forward there, Michael Robon is, so maybe a little bit of a fun battle starting to develop farther down in the field.
Yep, and Michael started this one in 11th, as actually in 10th, so he is up 1 from where he began, but I seem to recall that he had a bit of a mistake a little bit earlier, so Michael will be trying to see if he can get back what he had before. He's got it down within 0.6 of a second through turn 1. So definitely looking strong there on the first part of the lap.
And that was a personal best lap there for Michael Robon, so he's definitely starting to come on strong. Better line there through the International Horseshoe for the number 929, coming up behind Jeffrey Shulam. Shulam just trying to hold that line the best that he can. I've got to think... Oh, whoa!
Well, he was much more shallow, but he was also much better on the brakes down into the Western Horseshoe. And he is pretty much caught up to Shulam now. He's going to get a great pull through the oval. Is that going to be enough to get by, or does he want to get by here? Maybe he wants to wait until after the bus stop. Oh, he lost a little time. That was a poor exit out of 6.
Yeah, not the best one there, but he'll still get a good pull. Oh, they've caught the leader!
Something happened to Brown, and Latvala is by. Johnson's trying to follow him through, but Brown is able to break deep down into turn 1. Was there a slowdown penalty for Travis?
Yes, there was. He picked it up coming out of the bus stop, Joe, cutting over onto the grass with those left side tires.
Just pushing a little bit too hard. I feel like he maybe felt the pressure. He maybe took it a little too close to the edge and went over it, and that cost him, as it is no longer a race on his own at the front. He's got to deal with a 3-way fight for the victory.
Does indeed. Looks a little bit slow there on the midpoint of the corner of the Western Horseshoe. Unable to come back and get some good speed out of it. Now, something to keep in mind, we are 25 minutes into this race. Remember, I said that drivers think about 33 is there or thereabouts the maximum fuel window, so pit stop's going to start to factor into this battle here shortly.
I was just thinking the same thing, that it's time to start thinking about that. If I'm Brown, I almost feel like maybe back off a little bit here and try and save a 10th or 2 to see what he can do with that. Obviously, only a couple laps won't give him a whole lot, but at this point, he's probably not going to be able to break away very easily, so better to just use the cards that have been dealt to you.
Yeah, well, the only problem with that is maybe coming in and out on a different lap could put you just far enough behind the drivers to lose the toe, and that's the last thing you want. Oh, is this a move or is this a bump draft?
It was a bump draft, but it was a very rough bump draft. Hopefully he didn't get any damage. So the last thing you want here is the arrow on the car to be compromised.
Yeah, you definitely do not want it. Although the one thing I will say for Travis Brown in this situation is because he will have access to a spare car, he can afford maybe a lap of rough damage if it means it can help him get ahead.
That's a good point. Of course, with two of them, if he takes one on his first pit stop, he's still got one to spare, even if he has some more problems. And he's right up behind Lotvilla. Johnson seeming to struggle now for some reason, as he's fallen back to about 7/10. He's got to be careful. If he loses the slipstream, it'll go from the 3-car fight to a 2-car fight with ease.
Will indeed, Joe, and it looks like he's really sawing at the wheel, so I wonder if he maybe put a little bit too much effort into those tires. The tires are a little overheated here at this point, and he's just having to struggle to keep the grip up. Could be 10 more minutes before they should run out of fuel from what we've been told on the limits to the gas tank here. As they come down into the bus stop once again, this has been one of the most fascinating battles throughout this race, is this fight for the lead, where before it was a matter of trying to chase down the leader, and now they've all come together. A bit of a squiggle there from Corey Lotvilla through the bus stop that time, but it looks like he didn't lose too much time. No, able to keep it going, but I'll tell you who did lose time. That's Michael W. Johnson. The gap already up to 1.2 seconds. I think he's out of draft range here. Yeah, I'm not sure if he made a mistake or if he had some sort of slowdown there, but yeah, you can see him all on his lonesome. And that is not good news for his hopes of finally getting that victory here in the final round of the season. I'm double checking. Not a slowdown, just a general mistake, I think, out of that turn. Yeah, and cost him about a half a second there, so not great. Able to gain back 2/10 though in the first sector, so Michael clearly able to put that mistake out of his mind and just get back down to business. Brown sticking right in the tire tracks of the 22 at this stage. Remember how we mentioned Robon and Shulam a little bit earlier? Well, that might see a pass soon, because Michael in the 929 has got a very good run, and he's looking around the outside, so it looks like Jeffrey is going to try and defend. How late on the brakes can the 929 be? Well, it's all going to come down to this. Maybe looking a little bit of a crossover. No, he's just going to go for the pure momentum line. Bada bing. That is how you get a move done around the outside for Michael Robon. Mighty on the binders. So that moves him up into 9th now. It's going to be a big ask for the next car. It's 17.5 seconds up to Aaron Edwards. 17.5 seconds, but about an hour left to go in this race. So crazier things have happened. Checking back in on this battle for the lead. Everybody coming through the corner here, keeping an eye on sector times. Michael W. Johnson still losing out by hundredths of a second over the course of the lap. But here you can see Travis Brown starting to pull in a little bit closer behind Corey Lotvilla. He's actually got a pretty good run here. I don't think he's going to try and make a move. Let's see. No, big lift there as they come through the tri-oval. So not willing to risk it at this stage, but that would be a little bit concerning there if I'm Corey Lotvilla, because it seems like Brown, if he figures out how to time it right like he just did there, could easily try and snipe him. Yeah, very easily. And again, Michael W. Johnson just losing a whole bunch of time through that final sector. So he is clearly having some struggles in the bus stop. Ooh, well, that's not good news for him. But like you said, there's still plenty of racing left to go. So it's not over, but he's got to really focus from here and start to put down some good laps. Up into turn 6 once again. Brown following. He goes much wider on the exit, and that might not have been the best line, as he does lose a bit to Corey Lotvilla in that one, but he's going to be easily reeled back in here along the banking. Yeah, indeed he is, as Johnson just trying to pull him in, losing some time still behind. Let's see, though, if Travis Brown has got anything. Nothing down into the bus stop, although second part of it, he closes in a fair bit, and then it's back onto the banking once more. These cars really are impressive in real life, too. I highly recommend, if you get a shot, to try and make your way out to Daytona. Here's a big run, but looks like he's making another lift, so he's just going to sit back in behind that red
in Black Machine. In fact, give a little bump draft to give them some more time, and that gets them up to 2 seconds ahead of Johnson. But yeah, I've stood at the bottom of that banking as cars fly by, and it's just, it is awe-inspiring is all I can say. Is it is just a wall of pavement and cars going by at 150 miles an hour.
Well, you got one me beat there, Joe. It's one that I still have to check out and see. But even on the sim here, just absolutely impressive to see how close and tight this can go. In a battle like this for the lead of the race. Oh, as we've got our first taker on pit lane, looks like Mark Rondeau coming down for service.
And he seems to want to try and split this evenly. So even if he could go long, he's decided not to. And he's hit his stall. Doesn't overshoot it, so that's a good sign. Again, they don't normally have pit stops in this series. It is a 30-minute sprint typically. And we got some more friends joining him, as that looks like Robon and Shulam coming in.
Yeah, so several other drivers opting to come down pit lane. I like the idea of splitting this strategy just in thirds. It's a good, solid call. You don't have to worry about too much. You don't have to push it too much. It's just nice and easy and safe.
Well, let's see if the leaders respond or if they continue to try and go around. It actually might be kind of tight on if they continue on around or not, because they might get down to that 35-minute mark, and you don't want to run out of fuel. And both look to be coming in. Yes.
All right, so both leaders coming down pit lane as to a little bit of gamesmanship there from Travis Brown.
Better on the brakes coming down in. I said that could make the difference. It didn't get him past him, but it gained him maybe a couple hundredths here. And they're going to try and find their pit stalls. A little bit tricky for Latvala. And Latvala misses his stall. Latvala loses precious time here on pit road. This should easily allow Brown through back into the lead, but will it also cost him to Michael Johnson?
I think it might, but the only saving grace there for Corey Latvala is the fact that he'll be hopefully closer behind Michael W. Johnson and be able to take advantage of the tow. So let's see what happens. Johnson and Brown on their way. Latvala now on his way. That's going to be, I think, just close enough to pick up the tow. Very tricky pit exit here. You've got to be very, very patient to get back on the loud pedal.
And they also have to remember that the new pit exit doesn't allow you to get up to speed until after they are out of there. And now they are finally allowed to go. Latvala, yeah, just marginally within the slipstream on Michael Johnson. Critically, though, both of them almost a second and a half behind Travis Brown. They might have to do that work all over again.
Yeah, and it looks like Travis was stationary in the box just a couple tenths of a second shorter than Michael and Corey. Remember, Joe, we talked about him lifting when he was following behind Corey Latvala. I think that's exactly what he was doing, just trying to save those precious tenths of a gallon of fuel. If you've got a few left in the tank, that's less you've got to put in, and that means a faster time on pit lane.
Every little bit counts. Even in an endurance race, you can see how easy it is to try and hold touch with your rivals around here. So you've got to try and break that with whatever method possible. And it's down to 0.7 of a second between Johnson and Latvala now.
Indeed it is, and the gap between Johnson and Brown is growing a little bit to the tune of about 0.2 of a second over the course of the second, third, and fourth sectors. It's about 1.3 seconds as of right now.
Well, the first set of pit stops are done for every car at this point. So let's give a little bit of an update of where everybody sits since we don't have too much direct action. Travis Brown is back into the lead after eliciting a mistake from his rival and is clear ahead by about 1.3 seconds. That is over Michael Johnson, who we kind of counted out for a bit because he seemed to have dropped pace there right before the pit stops. But thankfully, the mistake from Latvala has gifted him second place, but he's still not within draft range of Travis Brown. Corey Latvala, unfortunately, gives it all away what he had gained there at the end of that last stint. Missed his pit stall, drops back, and oh, he must have had a mistake just now because it's now 3 seconds. He lost something there through turn one. Oh, no.
I think he had a bit of a slowdown. I think he caught the edge of the grass coming through the bus stop, Joe.
Yeah, I just saw that myself, and he gave it back at the last possible moment, thinking it would help him, but looks like it did not. And he is now way behind, so it's gone worse for Corey Lotvilla after leading briefly. Then behind him, the good news is that he's still about 9 seconds ahead of Paul Newton, who runs in 4th place. That could be a battle pretty soon, because just behind in 5th, Michael Ost just has about 1.2 seconds to try and make up. Paul has to try and struggle not to make the same mistake as Corey and get a cut course penalty, because he could easily allow Michael the draft. What do the next 5 look like from there here, DJ?
Well, behind Michael Ost, it is BJ Fulton, and he's only about 4 seconds behind Michael Ost. So if there was a battle that rages between Newton and Ost, he could very easily catch up on that. Behind them in 7th, it's Jad Duncan, who holds a very narrow lead over Mark Rondeau. Rondeau only about 0.3 of a second behind. Let's actually keep our cameras here, as this may develop to a little bit of a fight. Rondeau there in that purple, red, and black Porsche. Duncan up ahead in that traditional livery. Little bit sideways there, little bit crazy as they hold it on out, and that gap grew out a little bit, so we'll go back and continue to check the rest of the field. In 9th place, it is Michael Robon, who is currently up 2 positions. Remember, he had that area, had that problem earlier, that spin going into turn 1. He's been able to recover. And then rounding out your top 10, well, that's Aaron Edwards in 10th place right now, about 7 seconds behind Robon.
From there, the last car on the lead lap is Jeffrey Shulam, who's just kind of trundling around at this stage. He's got about 6 seconds to try and make up to get back into it. And poor John Momire, with his connection issue, is still 2 laps down from the leader. Freckleton has DNF'd. And apologies, helps if we read time more accurately. I forgot that they do it by military time here on iRacing. It's not 7 p.m., it's 7 a.m., 7:30 actually already. So the sun is coming up and not going down. So it's getting lighter, if anything, out here, and the temperatures are going up instead.
Well, Joe, that actually, now that we have learned how to tell time as a collective group here on the Global Sim Racing Channel, I'm very happy for us. I hope we get a merit badge. But I do think that's going to make for a very interesting end of this race, because as the sun continues to go up, the track is going to heat up a little bit more. It's currently at 79 degrees Fahrenheit. And if it gets a little bit warmer, we might have to start worrying a little bit more about tire wear and these tires overheating.
Yeah, that's a good point. That, to me, says it might be a little bit of an easier decision for the drivers come the second pit stop. Because, like you said, if the temperature's going up, it'll make more sense to try and get fresh tires so you're not slipping and sliding around. But Mark Rondeau and Jad Duncan might swap positions here, because I see Mark Rondeau with a big run coming up to the tri-oval, but he'll have to do it the long way around. Jad Duncan tries to defend. He's holding that inside line. We've seen an outside move once already, but it's a little bit more difficult this time as Jad takes it in deep, and Rondeau cannot make it happen there into the first corner.
No, he cannot, but I think Rondeau is going to continue to fight this out. That was a little bit off the apex there for Jad Duncan, and you can see Rondeau able to gain a little bit more back time. He's going to tuck up in this little mini draft that they get going through the kink. Doubt he's going to try to make a move into the Western Horseshoe, but maybe we see a move on NASCAR 1 and 2.
Indeed, and Rondeau exactly where he started this race, and Jad in the same position. So they haven't been able to really try and charge through the field. This is going to feel like a big thing to them, since they've been riding in these spots almost since the start. And on to NASCAR 1. He's close, but I don't think this is close enough.
No, he needs a little bit closer than that. The gap's about 0.3 of a second, or at least it will be by the time they get to the bus stop itself. You've got to be a little bit closer. But for Rondeau here, maybe look to back this up just a hair, not try to overshoot the bus stop. That may be his best bet.
Absolutely. Try and get the best exit possible. And once again, the car just doesn't seem to have a good shoot off the turn. So he'll still be about 5/10 back, and something happened between... Oh, Paul Newton is in. This is way too early for a pit stop.
I'm not sure what happened here, Joe. I was keeping an eye on him, and I didn't see any massive damage to the car, so I'm not sure what he's thinking.
I'm double checking, and he's stopped in his pit stall.
Yep, and there's the move for Rondo.
Figures I get distracted by something else, and of course, the driver finally makes a move. So Rondo now into 6th and not 7th place because of Paul Newton pitting. And I was speculating there. I was trying to check the incident penalties, and they do have a 34 incident limit where they'll get a drive-through, but that's not a drive-through penalty that he's serving right now. So again, mysterious stuff.
Yeah, and it looked like about a 25-second pit stop, so full service there for Paul Newton. Not really sure what that was.
Now, let's see. Newton did have slow laps earlier in the race. Did he have an extra pit stop that maybe we missed? Oh, remember, he made contact. Okay, so that's what happened. He took service when he came in, and his spare car when he had that contact with Momeyer. So that's why he came in now. That put him off sequence. He still has one more stop to go, unfortunately. So this 8th place probably not representative for poor Paul Newton.
Okay, that makes a little bit more sense out of that. Glad we solved that mystery. So there goes Paul Newton back and around. Now, the one good thing he will have working for him is that last pit stop will be a little bit shorter, potentially. He won't have to fill the car for as many laps as everybody else around him. So may be able to get a little bit of a leapfrog up and above, but we'll have to see.
What if we could get a lap comparison between Johnson and Brown now that we've had a few of them riding by themselves to see kind of what the overall trend is here. And it's stuck at about 2.2 seconds. And generally, that plus sign is a bad thing if you're a Michael Johnson fan. He has been dropping behind Travis Brown, so he is not gaining, and he's got to start picking up the pace if he wants to change the course of this race.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Michael, he's seeing minuses when it comes to Corey Lotfala in his rearview mirror. There you can see Corey coming up behind. Lost 0.6 of a second 2 laps ago, lost 0.2 of a second on the last lap. So Corey's starting to bear down a little bit. He's got that gap down to about 1.5 seconds.
And we're just about at the halfway mark as well, which is probably about the best time we could choose for a quick break. So we will come back with the last half here of the season finale for the Porsche Owners Club Series. It is 90 minutes at Daytona International Speedway. Don't go away.
iRacing is a sim racing game that combines a true-to-life racing experience with an online community of virtual racers from all around the globe. iRacing offers a multitude of officially licensed cars and tracks, laser scanned with millimeter accuracy. Their car models and mechanical systems are based on real-world physics, engineered in cooperation with manufacturers and race teams. Their skill license system ranges from rookie to pro, ensuring members are always pitted against those with similar skill sets. Members are able to sign up for a weekly race series, compete in time trials, host a private race with friends, and participate in racing leagues created and run by the community. With over 170,000 members, iRacing works in partnership with renowned motorsports organizations like NASCAR to deliver virtual races based on the real-life NASCAR Cup Series, as well as many other series on the NASCAR ladder. iRacing also features team racing, providing a variety of options for members to create and manage their own teams. Race with friends or real-world teammates in full-length endurance events like the 24 Hours of Daytona, Spa 24, or the Bathurst 12 Hour. Additional partners include IMSA, World of Outlaws, Supercars, and IndyCar, allowing members to race in their very own Indianapolis 500 Bathurst 1000, Chili Bowl, and many more iconic events. This is iRacing, delivering the most authentic racing experience short of getting into a real race car. Sign up today at iRacing.com.
Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway. It's the final round of the season here in the Porsche Owners Club Series. Travis Brown is your leader, as you see on screen, but in the background, Johnson has started to be caught by Corey Lotvola. Last time this happened, Lotvola was willing to work together with Johnson. Is that going to be the case again?
Well, we'll have to see. Considering the gap now is about 2 seconds between them and Travis Brown, I'm going to have to think that they're going to want to work together a little bit to try to get themselves up forward as much as possible. You can see a little bit of overspeed there for Corey Lotvola's speeds as they come down there. He's got about 2 or 3 miles an hour on Brown or on Johnson. Backs it off a little bit, doesn't want to take the full attack there.
Indeed, he's probably trying to think about the big picture again. We're going to hear that phrase a lot, I'm pretty certain. As he pulls up to the back of him, not quite bump drafting here in the corners. Not always the best of ideas, but he's getting mighty close, not quite making contact. It does give a little bit of a bubble to the car ahead, and they do move slightly faster, up to 175 miles an hour, and there's the bump.
Yeah, just that nice little bit of a push there. See if that has been able to take down anything for Michael Johnson. Both cars crucially able to get themselves through turn one. That can be so difficult. If you get that bump draft, you get that little bit of a bubble, you're carrying 2 or 3 miles an hour more than you normally are. You've got to back up your braking marker by just a little bit. If you get it wrong, the consequences can be disastrous.
Look at that beautiful sunrise in the background as well, as the drivers weave their way through the infield. Coming up towards the western horseshoe now, and Lotvola just sitting patiently behind. They're still at about 2.5 seconds, trailing behind the 300 of Travis Brown. Let's see if the oval portion helps him out this time.
Well, he's going to get a little bit of a draft up ahead of him because that's the lapped car of John Momeyer that they're coming off and coming around. So I think Travis is going to get a little bit of help here. Let's see if Michael or Corey are able to make anything happen.
It's another one of those things I definitely recommend if you manage to get to go to the 24 here at Daytona. Definitely be there for sunrise. It is absolutely beautiful, at least if the clouds aren't in the way. We have seen plenty of foggy mornings here, which is very eerie to witness. But the sunrise is something special, as there goes Brown. Another lap past Momeyer, who's kind of just using the season finale as an extended practice session. Unfortunately for him to get used to this car, and a little bit of a bob out of the way. I don't think he was seriously trying to go by, but that got a little bit anxious for a moment.
Yeah, there you see him ducking down to the inside there. Just so much of a superior line for Travis Brown, able to carry so much more speed through that corner. Looked like on the straights that Johnson and Lotvola were able to pull down a little bit more, but once they get back up under speed here in the twisty bits, it's not looking too good. Still holding at about 2.4 seconds.
Yeah, you speculated at one point there could be some differences in the wing angle, and wonder if Brown just has a little more cranked into it, allowing him to be faster here through these bits down in the infield portion. It can always be something of a compromise around here on how you want to set up the car, as that was a little bit of a look that time, it almost seemed, from Lotvola down through the western horseshoe.
All right, we may be working past the let's play nice together phase.
Sorry, Rondeau just had a spin down into the first corner, and that was in a side-by-side battle with Duncan. In fact, there was contact between them.
Ooh, we go back to check out the replay here. There you can see it. Oh, that was some pretty massive ghost contact, unfortunately, there that sends Robon spinning around. That is very, very unfortunate.
Well, the fortunate thing is that there's so much paved runoff there on the exit that he didn't hit anything, so he just got it going, but he lost quite a bit of time in that process. And if we go back to Latvala and Johnson, they are now swapping around, and in fact, this might be a fastest lap of the race for Latvala because he got a great exit with the slipstream. Now he's going to get extra slipstream from Momeyer. Let's see what this lap is going to be, because this looks like it should be a very quick one. No, it is not the fastest for him, a 45.5. Yeah, that's not even close to his quickest.
No, it is not. And a little bit of a hair-raising moment there. John Momeyer having some internet problems, blinking out as they crossed over the start-finish line. That is not what you want to see if you are Johnson or Latvala as they're trying to pass him.
Now, we've talked so much about the pit strategy and going long. There is the potential to do the middle stint as your short one as well, we have to remember. Once they hit that 35 minutes to go, we could see drivers come in if they want to.
Yeah, they very well could once we get down to 33 minutes to go, but I think especially for these lead drivers, they're going to want to come in together as much as possible. Brown's kind of got his pick of where he wants to go. He's been able to pull the gap up to about 3 seconds now at this point, but with Latvala and Johnson, I don't think either one of them is going to want to pull the trigger early because you don't want to lose that drafting buddy and potentially lose the opportunity to get back up to Travis Brown.
So as they fly down the backstretch up to the bus stop, it is up to 2.9 seconds at this stage. So it has increased at least a little bit since we last looked at it. Oh, and Momeyer, did he hit the wall there? I think he managed to stay out of it.
Yeah, and doing the heads-up play of jumping onto the paved little access road there, trying to minimize the time on the grass, minimize the rear wheel spin in that Porsche. So he is not looking too good there. And what this is really effectively going to do is I think this is going to give the second place in that GT2 championship to Marc Rondeau.
Yeah, that's a good point. We haven't been talking about that as much. Where is Rondeau right now? He sits in 7th still. He had his little issue. But actually, how many points for 7th place? I need to double check that because that might not actually be second place for Rondeau because, oh no, it will be because Rondeau's ahead of Momeyer, excuse me. So you are correct on that.
All right, so that is good news there for him. He'll be very, very happy about that to see it come ahead like that. Continuing to watch Rondeau work his way around.
All right, 37 minutes to go. Interestingly, Momeyer decided to pit. We don't need to go to it. I'm not sure why, because again, he did not hit anything. And did he actually tow into pit lane? Oh, he did. Oh, he had an accident. He smashed it into the wall on the outside of turn 1.
All right, let's watch this. Oh, loses control, catches some of the grass, and right there into the rear. I think he got stuck in the tire barrier.
Interesting. So that explains why he had to take that tow. And he was lucky not to hit the inside, but unfortunately, the luck didn't continue. And yeah, he is very much stuck. I have hit that inside wall during one of the iRacing 24 hours, and it is not a good feeling.
No, it is not. You get stuck in those barriers. You're trying like mad to try to pull away and get out of it, but there's absolutely nothing you can do. It's one of the worst feelings to have in iRacing.
And Momeyer's called it a night. That's it. And we can officially say that Rondeau has solidified second in the championship behind Jerry Freckleton, who's also retired. So good job to Rondeau being the only one to finish out of those top 3 here in the last race of the season. Actually, I'm curious, who is our highest GT2 driver? And I think that is Jad Duncan.
I believe it is. Jad currently running in 6th place right now. He's got about a 2-second gap, 2.5-second gap between himself and Marc Rondeau, about 20 seconds up the road to BJ Fulton.
And Duncan up to 6th place here.
little bit of a camera curse on him right there as he runs wide going into turn 1. That's going to cut about 0.5 of a second out of that gap between himself and Rondeau. And Rondeau may be able to start to close here a little bit.
And again, that is for GT2 points. Now, the interesting thing about Jad Duncan is he is unable to make himself eligible for points here in the championship to be for the prizes. He did not attend 16 races as Michael Johnson finds the wall out of the bus stop. The good news is he's within the pit window. The bad news is it'll still cost him some time.
He, luckily enough, had a big gap back to Michael Ost. That gap's coming down a little bit. Ost may get by him here. So we just heard Michael come over the radio and just said, well, that sucks. As he's got to be a little bit frustrated. Yeah, there's Ost going by him right now.
I think he damaged the suspension. The car is wobbling. He's not able to get up to full speed. So, yeah, he's going to lose ever more time. But this is still quicker than towing into pit lane. So... oh, wow. Yeah, he's struggling hard, and the car is crabbing. But again, he will at least be able to make it to the end, but I suspect he's going to have to fight hard to catch back up to Fulton. It's already up to about 14 seconds behind BJ.
Yeah, he's going to have a lot of work to do, although he has been faster overall, so we'll have to see if he's able to do that in the closing 33 minutes. Let's watch and see what happens. Big chunk of the curb there. Oh, he just cut it a little bit too early. That sent the car out and into a spin and 1-2 into the wall.
Very reminiscent of what happened there towards the end of Mosport. Just losing the car of his own volition. And yeah, this third apex right there. Round it goes.
Just brought the right side tires over a little bit too much, and that caused the car to lose grip, go sideways into the last corner there, and that's going to hurt him.
Oh, and the bad news is I'm not seeing him having used his spare car. So he's taking repairs. This is not the right call, I don't think. I'm assuming he forgot, as it's extensive time in pit lane, and is just about to go a lap down as we come to the battle now between Robon and Edwards. This is for 8th, and there we go. Johnson now took his spare car. Now he is rolling with a fresh machine.
Joe, he took tires. That's what it was. He decided to take tires on that last pit stop. That's what accounted for the slow stop. Literally comes back out about right where he was in terms of the battle, but a lap down.
And, well, we didn't see it on screen, but Latvala went deep into the corner as Johnson came out with him. But this is the battle we want to watch on to the oval as Michael tries to hold off the 5 of Edwards.
Exactly. Edwards trying to catch up the best that he can. Was able to get a good run out of that bus stop. Michael Robon looking behind, trying to keep his eyes focused. There's about a 2-mile-an-hour difference between the two cars.
Yeah, Edwards has been reeling him in bit by bit, and this is the closest that he's been in this race, but both of them do still need to make a pit stop. In fact, Johnson is the only one, I think, that has taken his final stop.
I think that's right. A lot of these drivers opting to go long here on the closing stages. I anticipate them coming down, say, around 27 minutes to go. Should be about where it is. Maybe even get it down to about 25, depending. Here comes Aaron Edwards. Is he going to try to poke his nose to the outside on Michael Robon? He is indeed going to go to the outside. Don't think he has the... Oh!
They make contact, nose to tail. It looks like Edwards backs out of it. Robon naturally goes a little bit wide. That was a good punch to the rear. So I hope Edwards did not get too much damage to nose. Again, he should be able to duck in and take his spare car. Let's take a look and see what it looks like on the front there.
Yeah,
looks okay to me.
I think so. There may be a little... No, even that splitter's fine. He's good to go.
Wow.
He's good to go. Wow.
Very lucky. Very, very lucky. And he didn't lose a whole lot of time. He's still within 7/10. He should be able to try and pull him back in if he's still got the pace underneath him.
Yeah, and pull him in. I think he will. We've seen a lot of good time there out of Aaron Edwards. His fastest lap is about 0.8 of a second faster than Robon, so he's really got some good speed in that car.
Makes sense considering he ran him down before. So should hopefully be on the cards at least. Now getting into the final third of the race. We're just about to 8 a.m. virtual standard time. And Mark Rondeau is our second driver rather, to take the final stop of the race.
Indeed, he is opting to come down pit lane. Here is Mark Rondeau. Stops, gets in good. Now, the question is going to be is if Mark decides to take tires here, much like Michael W. Johnson did. That is going to be this big strategy call here for these drivers.
We're watching. They have to put the fuel in first. So if he's taking tires, won't know until towards the end of the pit stop here. So far, car not going up on the jacks. No tires for the 171. He is out and rolling.
But Mark Rondeau also, Aaron Edwards also coming down pit lane as well. So we've got another taker here with about 29.5 minutes to go.
Rondeau back and on his way. Johnson actually, well, no, probably not within range. It looks like he's still a good 15 seconds behind Mark.
Yeah, but remember, Michael did take fresher tires, and so that means he is going to be able to set some fastest laps as he works his way around. I'm looking at his times. He's the fastest car, second fastest car out on track right now. The only guy faster, Corey Lotvala, on that last lap, who put down a 45 flat. Michael W. Johnson putting down a 45.3.
Oh, and into the wall. Edwards just pushes a little too hard on that pit exit. Just bounced into it, unfortunately.
And as I said, Joe, it's so easy to do around there. It's such a narrow strip of tarmac that you've got to try to thread. Don't think there's going to be any massive damage to the right side of the car, but the only thing that'll be a little bit wounded is his ego.
Well, at least he can keep it rolling, try to make sure that he can get a top 10 before this race is over and done. Will we see some more drivers in this time? We can go till roughly about 20 minutes left because of the length of time that they went before, just maybe a bit shy of that. An interesting thing about Lotvala is he's right by Johnson, so those two being on similar pace is kind of fascinating here.
Yeah, I would have expected Corey to be losing a little bit more time. Ooh, we've got another taker. It looks like... No, sorry, I don't know how to read the track. That's Mark Rondeau going through the first corner. But we do have Michael Robon going down pit lane.
No, you were right anyways, just looking at the wrong car. And so looks like Johnson will be able to go by him. So that's another position back for the number 9. I really am curious where Michael will come out in this with his longer pit stop. And his early pit stop. Jeffrey Shulam now comes down, and does he hit his stall? Is a little slow in there, but he finds it.
Yeah, finds it, able to make it work there. So good job for Jeffrey Shulam being able to come down. No easy feat at Daytona here. So many of these stalls look familiar, even with the overhead gantries there for the drivers to be able to spot their thing. It can be very, very tricky to hit your stall. Spool back there, you can see just all of them and how they can blend together quite easily.
You know, we've been focused so much about what happened to Johnson. Have we mentioned that Lotvala looks like he's actually gaining a bit on Brown?
Indeed.
Tires for Shulam. Sorry, go ahead.
Indeed, you're right, Joe. 0.4 of a second on lap 44, 0.3 of a second on lap 35. This is what we saw out of Shulam out of Lotvala last time. I wonder if that car just feels a little bit better on a lighter tank of fuel.
I'm thinking the same thing. It must be better at the end of a run because he seems to gain on Travis Brown. Maybe Brown's tires a little bit more cooked by the end. Who knows? And there you see the time comparison, and Brown is coming in this time.
And it looks like Corey Lotvala is going to follow him. Lotvala is going to have to be very, very careful not to make the same mistake he did last time and miss his pit stall. He's going to be very attentive to it. Brown working his way down now.
The gap, by the way, to the rest of the field is massive. The pace that the front runners have been doing has put them, I think, about 20 seconds ahead of the nearest car. Both of them managing to hit it right this time. So hopefully no more embarrassments. As there in the background, that is Oost joining in. All right, 25 minutes left to go. Where is Johnson right now? He's coming into the Western Horseshoe. There goes Travis Brown. So as we anticipated, he's going to be well ahead of him.
Yes, he is. And Corey there not able to save as much fuel. Looks like a little bit slower of a pit stop, about 2 seconds. So that's not going to be what he wants to see.
Ooh, Jad Duncan is in. So that's his final stop. And I think he's the last one. Yes, indeed. He's the last one to need to stop. So that will be everybody once these cars who are on pit lane finally exit. Travis Brown, a second quicker there in the pit stop over Corey Latvala, extending the gap, giving him yet more work to do. And unfortunately for Corey, with this one being the short stint, he'll have less time to try and use that late stint pace to close in on Travis Brown. Oost back out in third place. Fulton returns in P4. And Newton rounding out your top 5 after that one. But fascinatingly, Johnson is closing at a high rate of knots on Mark Rondeau. So 7th place might be possible, but he's going to have to continue this impressive pace to catch the 171.
Yeah, he is. I was taking a look at the lap comparisons, Joe. He's been able to take about a 1.5 seconds out over the course of the last 2 laps. Everything just showing up green here for Michael W. Johnson. He's now got that gap under 10 seconds. So those new tires definitely paying dividends.
Worth noting as well, we're down to 9 drivers left on the lead lap of our 13 starters. And, oh, well, when did John Momeyer come back out to the track? That's an interesting development. We're back up to 12 runners now.
Yeah, our only retiree here, Jerry Freckleton, the GT2 champion. So a little bit of teething problems, I think, for Jerry in these new GT3 machines. Hopefully he will be able to sort that out by next season. We'll be able to see him challenging hard up towards the front of the field.
I'd love to see what he can do as Momeyer doesn't hit anything, but struggles. Now, that could be a real problem if that happens again later in this race. That is a very blind corner coming around there. And if there is a car spun, you often do not know until you're right on top of it.
Yeah, you've got to hope there that you've got a crew chief or a similar app that's going to be sitting there telling you that there is a yellow in Sector 1. But even then, they're not going to give you a descriptor of exactly where it is. The only way you'd get that exact kind of information is if you've had a live driver in your ear telling you things, a live crew chief. So very, very scary to see that kind of incident for John Momeyer. We've seen in real life drivers get caught out by that many, many a time.
Absolutely. It's a bit of a wicked turn. And coming back onto the oval, looks like Momeyer's got it under control once again. 22 minutes left to go, and every driver has finished their final pit stop. It is a race to the end, but up at the front, it is still hovering at about 3 seconds between Brown and Latvala, with Travis having shown pace early in the stint, but not at the end of the stint. So will he be able to retain it a little bit better? Is he in the clear here in this last little run to the line? Or will we see a bit of intrigue when we get close to the checkered flag?
Well, I think the big thing for Travis Brown is, yes, he's got the gap at 3 seconds, but that's not the number to keep an eye on. The number to keep an eye on is 1 second. He needs to maintain a 1 second at minimum advantage over Corey Latvala, because at that 1 second mark, that means that there will be the draft starting to take effect, and at that point, it's anybody's race.
So we watch from the low camera there, flashing by through the kink and down into the Western Horseshoe. Let me double check on my count there. I believe, as I said earlier, it should be win number 9 for Travis Brown. If he finishes where he is, Latvala really wants to deny him that, get his 4th win of the season.
Yeah, Corey Wood, and he's been able to take a little bit of time out. The gap coming down to about 2.7 seconds here, 0.3 out on that last lap. But again, around the NASCAR high banks, it looks like Travis able to pull a little bit more speed.
Not only can we not tell time, we can't count either. It's the 10th win here for Travis Brown. If he wins this one, which actually is quite an impressive stat this season. 24 rounds and 10 wins. That just tells you the kind of dominance that he's had. But also to the credit of Corey Lottville that he kept it alive until the previous round. So it was finally sealed back at Mosport. Lottville was very, very consistent. But the end of the season has been very stunning for Travis Brown. He had 5 wins in the last 8 races. So he has been on a tear.
Yeah, he certainly has, just absolutely putting down the pedal when he needed to, and I'm sure he would love to cap this season on a high mark with the win.
Everybody wants to try and close it out to keep their mental momentum going into the next season. Down into the first corner here for Michael Ost, looking for a podium. 21 seconds behind Corey Lottville. Man. And that's with the mistake that Lottville made in pit lane. Probably cost him about 2 or 3 seconds there. But that tells you just how quick those two are. Ost has probably got to try and find himself a little bit more. He did get at least one win. It was round 22 back at Summit Point. I was extremely happy about that one to finally break that duck. But just have to settle for another podium, it seems, the way things are going currently.
And I think with the speed from these front drivers that we've seen, I've got to say Michael Ost has got to be happy about that. Now, we had mentioned there that Lottville had been able to take some time out on the last couple of laps. He was able to gain 0.3 on the 39th lap. That's the last lap out. Looks like he's losing a little bit here, but still, this may be a race up at the front. Don't count our chickens quite yet on this.
Absolutely. I'm watching the 300. He's coming across the line now. That lap of 45.1, Lottville 45.2. Yeah, just a tenth slower. Nothing to really claim the sky is falling quite yet, but doesn't want to have that happen too many times. He's really got to start chipping away more often than not. And 17 minutes left, 18 minutes really. How many laps will that be? I guess a little bit, maybe about 10 to 11 laps to go, I think.
Yeah, I think that's about right there, Joe. As we continue to watch. Remember, this is Paul Newton. Remember, he was off sequence, so this is going to be a splash and dash here for the 20.
That's right. So I was slightly off earlier when I said every driver is done with their last pit stop. We had to remember that the 217 needs to come in. Duncan should easily go by. Rondeau is a question mark, though. Newton taking fuel. Can't imagine he'll take tires here. He won't have much time to try and make use of them.
Yeah, there goes Rondeau on by. Waiting to see here. Paul Newton back underway. I think Michael W. Johnson may get him as well.
It's close.
Yeah, it's going to be close, but yeah, Michael's got him.
He's by, so that's good news for Michael Johnson. Up one more spot, now to 7th. 6th place could be on the cards. He's down to 7 seconds behind Mark Rondeau. Last lap, the difference between them, 46.5 from Mark. Michael with a 45.9.
He's closing, but not at the rate of knots that we really saw him close earlier on in this stint. So it's still a bit of an open question if Michael's going to be able to completely close down this gap or not. There's still a big question mark there.
Yeah, he might have seen the best of the tires kind of go away here. I wonder if it's harder to try and push as much as he was earlier, causing him to not gain as much time on the 171. Just about to 15 minutes to go soon. So time is ticking down and opportunities are going to dwindle away soon.
And speaking of opportunities dwindling away, Travis Brown has responded to Corey Lotbala, been able to pull that gap back up to about 3 seconds there, though he does have Aaron Edwards right ahead of him. That is a lapped car for 9th place, and that's actually probably helped Travis as he'll get a little bit of a tow here as they work their way onto NASCAR 1 and 2.
All right. Onto the back stretch, heading towards the braking for the bus stop once again. As we hop on board with Travis Brown, let's just spend a lap here with the 300 car and listen in and see what it's like with the fastest driver right now here around this legendary speedway. There you see your way around Daytona International Speedway on board with Travis Brown. Lapping a car, in fact, as he did that, going by Edwards to try and put him another lap down. We're down to actually 8 drivers left on the lead lap here in the final 13 minutes now. And Latvala was not able to catch up to Brown that time by it's still stuck at about 3 seconds. In fact, last time I also checked in on Johnson while we were watching that. He was a little slower on the previous one. In fact, he seems to be struggling a fair bit. It was a 46 flat last time for Johnson. Rondeau with a 46.1. Michael, I kind of wonder if what I said earlier really has taken the best out of these tires. He's going to put another lap on Jeffrey Shulam, but he's just not quick anymore.
Yeah, he's really not. And Joe, you know, these tires are designed to pretty much double stint as they go around. But the biggest problem you can run into is overusing them and overheating them. And he may have just cooked them a little bit. Track temperature has stayed at about 79 degrees Fahrenheit. So not a lot of track differences coming in. But he may have very well just put a little bit too much heat in them. And he's struggling to find grip now.
I think there was a problem from Michael Ost last lap because he had a lap that was 2 seconds slower. Looks like he went deep into the first corner from what I'm seeing. But this has allowed BJ Fulton to get it down to 1.8 seconds. I kind of wonder if the race is on for the podium here.
Well, it very well could be. Keeping an eye on the last 3 laps, it looks like Fulton was actually able to close in a little bit, although interestingly, they were dead even, at least to the thousandths of a second on the penultimate lap that they've run. So there could be a little bit of a race here.
All right, Fulton up onto the banking, but it looks like now he lost a little bit of time. It was down to 2 seconds. It's up to 2.4. Wonder if he had his own little error that time through. And they come onto the back stretch now. Maybe Fulton can regain some of that under braking down into the bus stop chicane. And he does about 1/10 of a second, but not a whole lot compared to what he lost earlier. So this is yo-yoing back and forth. Will we see the 277 manage to keep the trend up like he had the last few laps?
Well, it looks like he's losing time there through sector 3 and 4. Maybe on this final part is where BJ can get a good run. The gap holding at about 2 seconds right now, 10.5 minutes to go or so. So still some time to play for here. He was able to gain a lot of time on that last sector to the tune of about 3.5 tenths of a second. So BJ may be a little bit faster in a straight line, and that may be where he's getting his time.
Ah, that explains it then. And yeah, the overall lap, the difference between them was about 3 tenths of a second in favor of Ost. So he definitely responded to the sudden pressure that he might be feeling there in the cockpit as they come through the infield. Let's keep an eye on that gap there on the screen between them. It doesn't seem to be going up. In fact, it's coming down by about 1/10. I think it was just a mistake from Fulton.
I think you may be right on that, Joe. This race here for that final podium position may be on, hovering at about 2.3 or so seconds as of right now. Yeah, we definitely got a little bit of excitement coming on, and this should be the area that serves BJ Fulton the best.
By the way, Johnson, after a couple of errant laps, has buckled back down and is back into the 45 6s and 7s, while Rondeau continues to lose about 3/4 of a second a lap to him. Still not sure if that's going to be enough. We ride on board with Fulton. It's down to 1.8 seconds now, 1.7 seconds.
Oh, this is going to get spicy. And before it completely heats up, Joe, I think you hit the nail on the head there about the tires. That would tell me, the way that Michael was having to run over the last couple of laps, that he had to spend a lap or two just cooling the tires down, getting them back to a better operating temperature before he could go at full tilt again. So that may be exactly what we saw there out of the driver of the number 9.
That time, Ost with a 46.1, Fulton 45.6, half a second faster between the pair of them. It is on. It's down to 1.3 seconds between P3 and P4.
It is indeed 1.3 seconds as they continue to work their way around, and BJ Fulton able to take about 2/10 of a second out of the Ost on that first sector alone. Let's see here, sector 2, a little bit twistier, and that's going to be about 15 thousandths of a second in favor of Michael Ost.
Also another 4/10 that Johnson chopped off of Rondeau. I think we've got a race yet here to the finish. It might not be between the leaders, but if I know racers, every position is important, especially the last race of the season, wanting to try and end it as well as you can. As we watched Ost here coming around the banking and onto the back stretch. Fulton still at 1.4 seconds, not gaining through that portion, but it seems like Ost has been struggling a bit maybe through the bus stop. Let's watch. Down to 1.1 second under braking. Can he retain that coming off? He can. That is the Achilles heel for the 73, and that is very bad news, as if Fulton catches up towards the end of the race, he'll have a much better run around this portion.
Indeed, he will. He has just got to be careful. If we are right in assuming that BJ may be running a little bit lesser downforce, and that's why he's losing some time in the infield section, he has got to be very, very careful, as now he's got the gap under 7/10 of a second as they break into 1. He's going to have less air in front of him to push the car down. He's going to have to be a little bit more careful and be very, very cautious not to make a mistake here in the infield.
Fulton hit his personal best at a 45.2. Ost a 46.1. He was 9/10 of a second faster that time by. He is massively gaining now.
Gaining big time, and now he's even going to get a little bit of a draft as they work their way through the kink. Let's see what these sector times are, and if it's still faster, it is to the tune of about 53 thousandths of a second. So BJ Fulton really putting down the loud pedal.
And behind them, 7/10 of a lap faster from Michael Johnson over Mark Rondeau. He's got it down to, oh, and Brown is off. Brown is off. And this means that Corey Lotfula has better speed and takes the lead away. Brown now has it all to do, and only 6 minutes left on the clock to do it. He's falling to over a second behind already.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, do we have some drama in store in these final 6 minutes.
Travis Brown may have seemed to have had slightly better pace than Latvala, but he's really got to show it. It's 1.3 seconds. This must have been just a straight up driver error. Oh, first curb caught him out.
Yeah, he just took too much of it, wasn't able to get the car back up and under him. And oh, Michael Ost has let BJ Fulton on by for P3.
That also happened out of the bus stop chicane. No slowdown penalty, although Ost was a little squirrely out of it. I think he saw the writing on the wall. Fulton was given the bottom line, and he is now into P3. So the podium positions have completely switched from a lap ago.
Yeah, they really and truly have, Joe, but now it is all, I think, really and truly to play for here for this top spot. But we continue to watch BJ Fulton. Now, there's Corey Latvala, that leader right now. He has got the gap at about 2.8 seconds, looking to see if it's going to seesaw at all.
All right, coming down the backstretch, doesn't seem like Brown is gaining, at least at this stage. Let's watch the bus stop, see if that changes it. There is Ost. And now we come back to Latvala. And through there, up to 1.3. That's bad. Travis Brown lost a tenth through that.
Yes, indeed, he has. So that is not what Travis needs to have happen at all whatsoever. But he's going to continue to try to close. He's still only got about 1.3 seconds to gain up the road.
And excuse me, that was Rondeau with some kind of problem. I think he had some sort of slowdown penalty or something. Because it is now down to 1.1 second between Rondeau and Johnson. So the gap for the lead and the gap for 6th and 7th have both suddenly become a very close fight.
It just goes to show you, Joe, no matter how long you run at Daytona, any single lap can change everything. This is the battle for the lead. Travis Brown able to pull about a tenth of a second back on Corey Latvala, and he's able to gain a tenth and a half through that second sector. Who's this coming down pit lane? That's Ost.
Oh, did he short fuel it? He may have put too little in. And that means Fulton is now solidly into third. I wonder if Michael Ost knew he was short, and that's why we saw him suddenly going slower.
Yeah, that's just a quick splash and dash there for Michael Ost. I think that's exactly what went wrong. There you can see cars starting to streak on by him, so that's only going to put him down, thankfully, in 4th place. But Jad Duncan's not too close behind him there. You can see Jad.
It comes within about 1.2 seconds. Oh, and Travis Brown has cut it down to 9/10 of a second here. He's closing in. He should start to feel that slipstream a little bit more. Let's see how much he gains here around NASCAR 3 and 4 towards the tri-oval.
Yeah, this is where he has just got to focus on trying to hug that yellow line to the best of his abilities. Looks like he's starting to pull it down. It's under 9/10 now, under about 8.5 He's definitely feeling the effect of the draft.
He's about 2 miles an hour faster as they hit the braking into the first corner, and he closes, but does he send it too deep? No, he manages it perfectly. It's down to 7/10 of a second, and it is 2 laps to go. He is within play now.
He is indeed. This is on here for the lead of the race.
Amazing stuff. Brown just never giving up. Latvala desperately wanting that 4th win of the season. Brown looking for number 10. They are 29 seconds ahead of BJ Fulton. It is no contest behind. They are free to race without anybody catching up. And they have a lap and a half to go to sort this one out.
Indeed, they do. Who is going to be able to take this? This is Travis Brown's closing in again. The gap coming down under 7/10 of a second. Oh, this is going to get close.
6/10 of a second now. He has definitely got the slipstream. He's going to have precious few opportunities to try and make it happen. So it's going to have to be decisive. And off goes Travis Brown into the barriers. Oh, no.
Oh my goodness gracious, a rough day going from rough to worse for Brown. He has fallen completely back. I hope he doesn't have too much damage. He's definitely got some rear wing damage on that Porsche though.
It looks to be tracking okay. He's got still about 18 seconds over VJ Fulton, so I think he could still limp it home into second place. But Corey Lotfula takes the white flag and breathes a sigh of relief.
Yes, he does. Corey has just got to pilot this thing around for one more lap and be able to take it. Still has about an 18-second gap, does Travis Brown, so I think he'll be able to breathe a little bit easier and hold on to second.
It now becomes a victory lap for Corey Lotfula. Who would have thought just 10 laps or so ago that it would have wound up like this? It is never over until that checker flag flies. And Lotfula himself probably knows that. I got to think he's backing off a bit here probably. In fact, leaves a wide margin to the edge of the track out of the Western Horseshoe. He just has to bring this home safe.
Yeah, that is all he has got to do here at this point. Does not want to push it too hard. Just take this nice and easy.
By the way, Michael Johnson is within 9/10 of a second of Rondeau, so that battle's not over. They're coming to the white flag as well themselves. So that could change positions as Michael could get himself into sixth place, but into the bus stop for the final time for Corey Lotfula. Let's see how easy he takes this one. Yeah, that looks pretty trepidatious out of him. 2 more corners to go, but it is flat out from here. And Michael Johnson is in pit lane. Was he not able to make it on fuel? Was it too tight? Oh no, it wound up not being there in the end, but up ahead of it all, the 22 is gonna rack up his 4th win of the season. Corey Lotfula takes the final race here with a victory at Daytona.
Really and truly a drive of persistence for Corey Lotfula. A great job for the 22. Travis Brown coming to the line right now. He will cross over and take P2. That has got to be very, very disheartening there for the 300.
BJ Fulton with an excellent job to take 3rd. He may have been a bit behind, but slow and steady doesn't win the race. It gets you a podium, at least here today, ahead of Oost, who short-fueled it, unfortunately. And Oost actually still only about 2.4 seconds ahead of Jad Duncan, so he should be at least mostly clear. And now that they're out of the bus stop, I think as long as he's got enough fuel at this stage, he is good to go.
Yeah, I think he should be good. And well, pretty much at this point, if he can just coast it on out a little bit, it may... Oh, no, he's out! That's Oost out!
Oh, I called it too soon. Duncan is going to get 4th. Oost falls to 5th in the end. Even with an extra stop, he still doesn't put enough in it. Gutting moments. Rondeau is going to come home behind him in 6th, 7th to Newton, and Johnson last one on the lead lap. Fuel wound up being a big talking point here today, but we're going to come back after a short break. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so stick around.
This is iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in enduro series from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, Aussie Supercars and more. Take on legendary circuits like Daytona, Silverstone and the Nürburgring. Join iRacing's global online racing community and get on track today at iRacing.com.
Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway. The last race of 2021 for the Porsche Owners Club Series saw Corey Latvala finish on a high, take the win by 16 seconds. And that might seem like a big margin, and yes, it was, but Travis Brown was hounding him until about a lap and a half to go. In fact, Travis was leading for a good chunk of this race before a mistake in a couple places cost him multiple times, and he had to settle for second. Still, Travis was our champion this season as BJ Fulton wound up in third and rounded out the podium here today. Jad Duncan, a surprise fourth on the run of the line, as behind him, Michael Ost ran out of fuel and wound up fifth. Mark Rondeau was P6 and Paul Newton was seventh. Michael Johnson also needed an extra stop and was the last one on the lead lap in eighth. And then it was Aaron Edwards ninth and Robon in 10th. From there, Shulam was 11th, Momire 12th, and Freckleton in 13th. We've got our winner ready to talk to us. Corey Latvala going from the front row to the top spot at the checkered flag. And Corey, congratulations. That one had plenty of twists and turns. How is your heart rate right now? Might need a second here to get Corey mic'd up. Corey, do you have a copy? Looks like he might be having a couple technical problems. We'll give him another moment here just to see if he can get this sorted out real quickly. And it looks like we won't for now. So in the meantime, DJ has caught up with Travis Brown's second place and maybe a bit gutted here.
Well, Travis, it looked like that was a race for you out there on by yourself, and then obviously a couple of heartbreaks there. But how you feeling? Obviously, you are the champion, so it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, feeling, thankful I got it wrapped up last week, but yeah, a little obviously disappointed. Corey kept me honest the whole way, though. He was pushing, so I knew I had to push too, and that's what caused the first issue where I went a little hot into the bus stop and got the slowdown, which then put race on. I had to battle back, but I still had pace on him, especially with the draft. But that was the first time all race I really followed somebody into the bus stop, and I feel like I did it exactly the same I did the rest of the race, but can't do that with the wing wash. So, yeah, my bad. But great race to Corey, so got to give him props.
Well, it was a great race between the two of you, and obviously Michael W. Johnson being up there as well. But I guess I got to ask the elephant in the room, how do you like the new GT3?
Oh, I love it. I think it's great. I love having ABS back. I can just lean on it. And I think it's going to be really fun having a larger field next year with more cars all in the same class. So it was definitely nicer for qualifying too, not having all the multi-class traffic to have to work around. So now I'm excited.
Well, normally at the end of a season, I would ask, sort of what are your goals for next season? But you had a pretty impressive run this year. I think 9 or 10 victories and then, obviously the championship. But is there any sort of duck that you want to break for next year that's not that obvious?
Oh, I got to defend, everybody's coming for me. So got to be the rabbit out in front for people to chase. And hopefully my goal is try and be a little more consistent. I've had too many issues like today where it was just self-inflicted pain. So got to avoid that.
Well, we wish you all the best next year and hope you have a happy holidays while we have a little bit of time off away from the POC. But anybody you want to thank for this run here tonight, Travis?
Yeah, I got to thank Corey. It was fun. He was pushing me the whole way, and him and Johnson kept it interesting. We were getting a little bump drafting in there for a while. I was trying to get I figured if I had the chance to just run away and race one person, I'd bump draft Corey and break away from Johnson. But then that gap closed right up after the pit stop. But those two guys made it a fun race for sure.
Love that for you. That was Travis Brown, your second place finisher here tonight. And Joe, I believe you've caught up with our winner, Corey Latvala.
Indeed, I have. Now that Corey's had a chance to get his nerves down and get the mic working, how does it feel to end on a high like that?
Oh, man. I was not expecting it to end that way. When Travis was 7/10 behind me, I was like, I just over and over through my head, I'm like, man, I'm screwed. He's going to be right on my tail, right out of the last corner on the last lap, and he's just going to have the draft, and I'm basically going to be a sitting duck. So it worked out, though.
We saw what looked like a bit of working together between you and Michael Johnson at certain points of the race. Was that the case? Were you two trying to see if you could catch Travis by kind of combining efforts?
Oh yeah, for sure. We were just trying to push as hard as possible and not slow each other down. But it was pretty hard. Johnson and I are pretty competitive, so it was good though. It worked out.
It did indeed in the end, but a nice little introduction to this car that we're going to be racing next season. You missed out on the championship, but obviously you kind of have momentum going your way. Do you feel like you can, as we heard from Travis say, take the fight to him next year in 2022?
Oh yeah, it's on for sure. It's going to be a great time. Everyone's pretty fast, and we're all about the same pace, so it should be fun.
Oh, we're really looking forward to that. And congratulations on the win. Anybody you want to thank before we let you go?
Yes, all my friends and family, like always, they're always there to support me. You guys always putting on a great interview, and the POC and Schmidt Racing, Dave at Schmidt Racing always has my back. So hopefully we can do something next year with the same car. So yeah, thanks guys.
That was Corey Latvala, our winner in the number 22 car out there at Daytona. Up next, third place finisher is BJ Fulton, and DJ has caught up with him.
I have indeed, BJ. That was a bit of a crazy run there, obviously, with Oast running out of fuel at the end. We were keeping an eye on everything, but how was it from behind the sim?
Yeah, it was quite a long and grueling race, just trying to stay focused, being alone for most of it. I missed my braking point at the bus stop a few times, and that really woke me up.
Yeah, it'll certainly do that to you. That's what the bus stop tends to do to me. I know whenever I go out and run it. But I'm just had an interesting stat here that you actually didn't have a win this year. So obviously looking into next year, is that a goal for you to try to break that duck, or any other big goals for the season?
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely the number one goal for next season, is try to get to that top step of the podium. Been on number 2 a few times, but haven't made it to the top.
Well, and then the final question I want to ask you, I asked our winner, or our second place driver, Travis Brown, that how do you like the new GT3?
Oh, I like it a lot. It's super fun to drive, and I like that we can be so much closer together. I mean, at Daytona with the draft, you can do that in a lot of cars, but you'll see around a lot of the tracks next year, we're going to be much closer together, and it's a lot of fun.
Well, I am very, very much looking forward to it, BJ. Anybody you want to thank for a really strong third-place run here tonight?
Yeah, I'll just thank the POC for putting on such a great season for 2021, and thank you guys for covering it, and I can't wait to do it again next year.
Well, we can't wait to do it as well. That was BJ Fulton, your third place finisher here tonight at Daytona. Joe?
And that's going to close us out. So a big thank you to the Porsche Owners Club for bringing us on to cover this incredible season, but a big thank you especially to their sponsors, which of course includes Porsche. There is no substitute. Find out more at Porsche.com. And Sunset Mortgage. Don't put your money in the bank, be the bank. Check them out today at sunsetcash.net. And Octavio Tequila. Celebrate now. For a great tasting tequila, go to octaviotequila.com and purchase today. And finally, Century Financial Consultants, making the rest of your life the best of your life. You can check out their website at centuryretire.com. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. Check out her Bandcamp for more great work. Thanks to the team today, DJ, Zach, and Dougie. You can find more info about GSRC at globalsimracingchannel.com or through our social media. Also, check out our merchandise store at simracingmerch.com/GSRC. We keep a link in the description below, so it's nice and easy to get to. But don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, so you don't miss a moment. We won't have a long break. Our next season in 2022 starts off on January 3rd at Suzuka. So on that Monday, make sure and tune in at 11 p.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.